Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Gran Turismo 7 Daily C race and strategy guide. We're in the Group 3 machinery and we're off to Sardegna Road Track C in reverse. So that's a very short track, less than a minute for a lap in a Group 3 car, hence why we have 20 laps. We've got tyre wear at times 6, we've got fuel at times 2, it's just the racing soft tyres. There is a mandatory pit stop in this one where you need to make the stop, you do not need to change the tyres. We'll look at what the best option for that will be in due course. BOP is on, it's a low speed BOP which is quite unusual. Damage is light, it's a rolling start and slipstream is real. The sends for this one are very reminiscent of the Deep Forest race in Group 3 where the 4GT race car, where the old one was the best car at that track, although I suspect, given the nature of this track, that there's going to be a lot of cars that will come to the fore. It's a short track, there's not any really long straights for cars with a very good top end to take advantage of, so we'll see how the week unfolds in terms of car choice. This is the 8 o'clock race that we entered. It's always pretty strong because all the TCR boys come out to play and want to get into Tidgeney's video. And speaking of Tidgeney, he is starting just in front of us in the Toyota Supra. Look out for his video a little bit later on in the day about how that car feels around here. We're in the other Toyota, we're in the FT1. We did some open lobbies the night before, we did some testing. I felt this car was pretty good around the track. It was easy to make mistakes in it, but if you get it right, it tended to produce pretty good laps. So on the soft tyres here, we had an idea of how the strategy was going to work out, but it does turn out that the conditions are quite different from what we tested. It seems to be a little bit cooler, and there's a lot of carnage in this one in the opening stages, certainly in this race. Now I guess things will calm down as the week progresses. This is kind of like the first day back at school race, if you like. I always remember Martin Brundle talking about the very first race of the F1 season. We can always be a little bit calamitous as the drivers are, trying to find their race form, race feet once again, having not sort of driven a car in anger, if you like, for a number of months. But that's what it felt like in this one. His cars go flying off all over the place, and all of a sudden we went from, I think we started in 14th, maybe 13th, we're up into P10 as three cars go exploring the outer extremities of this circuit. So not a bad start for us. Obviously we had a little bit of practice last night, so we're a little bit more up to speed than maybe some of the drivers around us. Mario Sonic just in front of us, Tidgeney moving up into P8, coming down into turn 1, taking it nice and easy here on lap 2. There's still a big cluster of cars together, so just braking a little bit early just to sort of let people take their lines, get through the corner safely, and we've still got plenty of laps left in this one to make some progress. Coming up through the middle sector here. Now, do be careful in the opening laps. I'm not sure if it's a case of cold tyres or if it's the track conditions, but the grip in the opening stages of the race, certainly what I found through that middle sector, which is normally full throttle, and maybe a little bit of dirt here thrown in there as well, but just maybe in the first couple of laps just have a little bit of a confidence lift up through that middle sector to avoid hitting the barrier and going off the track until you're fully confident the tyres are up to temperature and that the car is going to stick through there. Because certainly for the first few laps of this race I definitely felt that the car was a little bit understeery through that section. Apologies if you heard my phone going off there. Usually I've got that in silent, to be fair. Now I've got a cat meowing at me. Blooming heck, all sorts of noises going on. Apologies folks. This is the perils of YouTube sometimes. But into lap 3 now we are, and we're still in P10. There's going to be some I don't know if it's chaos that ends up going on up here. We've got Hogston with a 1.5 second penalty. We've got somebody going off the track up there as well. Oh yeah, it's another TCR driver I think. And we've got Hogston serving a penalty. We've got Shelty slow with a 5 second penalty, and all of a sudden we're up to P7. Now at this point I was on, God, there's another car off, the German in the Porsche going off at the last corner, and Tidgeney then having a moment as well. All of a sudden we're in P6. Now I had been considering pitting early on in this race, but the race kind of opened up there. You see we had a little bit of clear track. Tidgeney in front of us pulled away, and as drivers pulled off to make their pit stops around about between laps 8 and 12, we found ourselves out at the front by all but on our own, and I was kind of considering at this point, I wanted to see, how long are these tyres going to last, because I did feel they were going to last a little bit longer than my testing. So we're on to lap 16 here. You can see we've still got a fair bit of tread on the rear left, but I was pretty sure the tyre was not going to make it to the end, so we decided to make our mandatory pit stop. So what I was kind of swivering on whether to change the tyres or not. Of course you've got to make the pit stop, but I was swivering on whether to change the tyres or not, and I actually decided, you know what, let's just change the tyres, and we'll be incredibly fast for the last few laps, because I'm not a big fan of driving on the worn tyres. I know you don't lose that much time, I know it can be a viable strategy, but I just think it's so silly myself that I actually try to avoid doing it, if I'm perfectly honest with you. So, we could have not changed the tyres, we could have saved a bit of time in the pit stop. We'll look at how much time you can change. Actually, you know what? I thought I didn't realise I'd put that graphic up there. So, if you change the tyres, you'll lose about 17 seconds in the pits. If you don't change the tyres, you'll lose about 13 seconds. It's actually a 3.6 second saving on not changing the tyres. We'll take a look at what happens to your tyres if you don't change them in due course. But we're back out on a fresh set of tyres, missing the apex completely there at probably the hardest corner of the track. But we had a lot of pace at this point. We're going to catch up with P4, who's definitely struggling on the tyres here. He's going to go wide at this very same corner that we just understeered. He's going to go off the track, and it's going to give us the rundown into the last corner. Going to put us up into P4, and yeah, come through the last corner here. Tricky last corner in terms of how you make the braking work. Out of the last corner, and we are going to just finish off the podium in P4 behind TCR Sonic, TCR Tidgney and Mario Sonic. But fun little race, and yeah, let's talk about some more of the strategy options in just a due course. Not as long a race as I thought it might be. Definitely scope to have had lap 21 in there, which may well have made these kind of circumstances less likely to be something that we might see. So when we made the pit stop, we were stationary for 5.3 seconds. If you don't change the tyres, you're stationary for 1.7 seconds. However, if you don't change the tyres, your tyres are going to look a bit like Mario Sonic's from around about lap 16 onwards. So after about 16 laps, Mario lost the front left, and as we come to lap 20, he's very close to losing the rear left as well. However, his lap times, he's doing 53.5s, 53.3s, so even with me on the fresh tyres and like very fresh tyres, I'm only gaining. I was doing 51.8s, 52.0s, I was only gaining 1.5 seconds back. Now over the course of 4 or 5 laps, you will make that time back up over the worn tyres. We made quite a lot of mistakes on our run, to be fair, but yeah, the lap times are still, so you can still use the dead tyres. I'm not a fan of it, it really annoys me. But yeah, it is a viable strategy to not actually change the tyres and just deal with the dead tyres at the end. So your strategy options are the change tyre strategy. Your pit window is going to be about lap 5 to 15, depending on how the race is unfolding. If you pit nice and early, you might get an undercut on some of the cars around you. You might avoid the traffic and the chaos. You've seen what was going on in the first couple of laps of our race. And yeah, obviously your tyres will be a little bit more worn towards the end compared to somebody who maybe changes on lap 10 or lap 12, but the undercut may well be worth it, and the tyres will definitely last the distance. Your optimal stop laps are going to be laps 9 to 10, of course. The no tyre change strategy, we just looked at it there with Mario Sonic. You can pit any lap you want to avoid the chaos and the traffic. You'll save around about 3.6 seconds in the pits, but you have to deal with the dead tyres at the end. Maybe about 3 to 4 laps on the dead tyres, but as you can see, you don't lose a massive amount of lap time, and maybe it'll be worth it if you're just in an absolutely bonkers race. That's the strategy options. Let's move on to the lap guide. We're in the title to FT1, come down into turn 1. You're looking for the 150 board. Now it's obviously not 150 metres from turn 1 because look, we're the 100 metre board, but you're looking for the 150 board, and you've got the triangle from the pits as well, so just before the 150 board is probably ideal for turn 1. Even at that, we still managed to miss the apex, but it's all about getting on the power nice and early around this circuit, because we get this downhill section, we come up through the uphill section, get the line right, it's all full throttle here. As I said, be careful on the opening laps or behind another car. And then into the right hander, you're looking for, again, like the triangle there where the curb and the dotted line meet. Don't be too brave on the brakes into this corner. If you get it wrong, you understeer wide, it'll cost you a lot of lap time. It's probably better to just be a little bit cautious through that corner. Looking for the start of the curb on the left hand side here, come off the throttle, maybe down one a gear, let the car coast into this corner here. Once you've got the car nice and straight round about where that curb is, or curb ends on the left hand side, do the majority of your braking, down into second gear, try and catch the camber on the inside. Do avoid the curb on the inside as well though, because those kind of jagged curbs do unsettle most of the cars. And then on the power out towards the start finish line. That's a lap of Sardegna Road Track C reverse in the Toyota FT1. Should be a pretty good race. One thing I never mentioned is, and I never realised at the time when I did the race, apparently we can change the frequency of the suspension settings, so whether that will have an impact on what cars will come to the fore, or whether you can actually make the tyres last the full duration of the race, remains to be seen. Setups are not my forte, folks. There'll be the usual suspects. We'll have some guides out there in due course, no doubt. But do join me for some live streams this week of this one. We may well try and use all the manufacturer's challenge once again. But thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.